It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Hello, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that stuff. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a great holiday. Over at my house we did. It was just a nice, relaxing holiday. Nothing too crazy, no drama, which was super nice. And we're just going to have a real low-key New Year's Eve tomorrow. I think my wife actually has to work. So, yeah, we'll be doing that. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, my name is Chris, and I'm an HVAC service technician here in Southern California. I make these YouTube videos to share the little bit of knowledge that I have. I do these live streams Monday evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific time, work permitting. So what that means is so long as I can get off work in time and get home, I'll be doing these streams. So that's the plan. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. Do me a favor, throw them in caps lock. We've got my moderator, Justin, in there. Actually, we have a couple moderators in there, but Justin will help me to field some of the questions. And you guys can always send me emails to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I see. Wow. Thanks for the support, Ralph and Clint. Thank you for the super chat. Joe, thank you for renewing your support. I really appreciate everybody. Okay. Every little bit helps. But it's not expected. Nobody needs to support me. Nobody needs to donate. I'm going to keep doing these videos and these streams no matter what, okay? So I really appreciate it. It's kind of funny because I think that it has been officially, it was a full year of live streaming as of November, I think. I think November of last year might have been my first live stream, or maybe it's been longer. I don't know. I lose track of time, but I think it was November of 2018, I think. Yeah, anyways, so. But I look forward to the new year. Look forward to, I don't really have any major changes planned or anything like that. Obviously, we always try to better the next year from the previous, right? But I'm very fortunate and, cross our fingers. Everything's been going well. Jeff, thank you so very much for that super chat. Joe, thanks. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are super awesome, man. But yeah, I just, the plans for the new year for next year is just keep doing what I'm doing. Obviously, we are looking forward to the AHR show in Orlando in the end of January, beginning of February. And then with that being said, I'm going to be at the HVAC school training conference. I don't know what you call it, that Brian Orr is putting on. So I'll be a speaker at that soon too. That'll be the Friday and Saturday before AHR. And if you guys don't already have your tickets, I heard Brian say yesterday that the event is completely sold out. So, but I'm sure in some sort of fashion, there's going to be some sort of like a stream, maybe not of the entire event, but of some of it. So should be able to see some of it. And, you know, everybody plans on recording. The speakers at that event are going to be way beyond me. It's going to be so cool. I'm just excited to be able to go, let alone to be asked to be a speaker. It's kind of a trip. So anyways, we'll see. But as usual, got a little list of stuff that I want to cover, and then I definitely want to get to your guys' questions in the chat, okay? You know, I try to make this make sense to you guys. When I explain things, I try to break it down to where, you know, people can understand my explanations, okay? I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I like to, when I have a hard time understanding something, I like to make sure that once I do understand it, that I can maybe help the next guy so that way he doesn't understand it. So I certainly don't know everything, but I try to answer what I can. So, all right. I definitely see a bunch of questions and different things. But let me see what I got going on in here. So again, guys, there's so much going on in the chat that if you got questions, please put them in caps lock, okay? So what I want to start off with is, really quick, I want to get this over with because I had a lot of comments. So I had shared something on Facebook with that Sporlin had shared a post where they showed their PT app that they have, the pressure temperature chart app, right? And a couple different people came back in the comments like, hey, the app doesn't work. It's really an easy app, but you just have to get past the installation, guys. So I'm going to pull up the app real quick because I wanted to do this before I forgot, just because of how many questions we had about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the app and I'm going to pull up a screen share real quick. And I'm just going to show you guys something really quick. It's super simple, but I want to make sure that everybody understands how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition to a screen capture. Let me turn this off and let me turn this off and transition this over. All right, so what I'm using here, I use a Samsung phone, and this is a window using the Samsung Dex app, which basically just mirrors my phone on my computer, okay? So this is what the home screen of my phone looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Sporlin Chillmaster PT app. Okay, bear with me, guys. I'm just showing this out, and obviously you can see that it's in, phone mode or whatever. This is the screen that you get when you open it up, and I guess I understand the confusion because when someone clicks on PT lookup right here, what pops up is R12 refrigerant. This is pre-populated into the app, and you have to, figure out how to go past that. Well, if you push on the drop down right here, it only gives you the option to do R12 refrigerant, which, okay, I get why that's confusing. So what you do, this little star right here, click on the star, and you need to favorite the refrigerants that you want to pop up in the app. So for me, I deal with 134A refrigerant. I deal with R22 refrigerant. I'm going to go ahead and select the ones that I use. Hey, check this out. They even have a different slider for bubble point and dew point when you go into the blends, okay? So we're going to go to 404 refrigerant, bubble and dew, and we'll go ahead and call it at that for now, okay? And then we hit save. And then what it does is when you go ahead and go back, now on my drop down, I can select between the different refrigerants, okay, guys? Remember the difference between bubble point and superheat or dew point, okay? You want to use dew point when you're calculating superheat, and you want to use bubble point when you're calculating subcool, okay? So keep that in mind. But that's the whole difficulty. People were having a hard time getting that, and I get it. There's not an instruction that tells you how to do it, but I just wanted to point that out because I kind of felt bad because I shared a link to this, and then people were like questioning everything. So it's really not that big of a deal. Just got to click on that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and we're going to turn off the screen share. And then I'll go ahead and bring up my normal screen and we'll get back into everything if I can figure out how to work my app right here. So there's that, and there's that, and there I am. And let me go ahead and turn the display capture off, and we are good to go. All right, so let me click this off my screen right here, and I can get back to my list of things to talk about. So let's see what else we got going on here. All right. Let's see if we got anything in the chat before I get too lost from the questions. Okay. Again, I'm looking for questions in caps lock, guys. Okay. Let me see. And again, I'm just scrolling through. R32 is popular in NA. I don't know. Is that Netherlands? I don't know NA. Yeah, R32 is a refrigerant that's being used around the world. It's not super popular in the United States as of yet, but I did hear that people were going to start using R32 in mini splits. I don't know if that's the case for sure. But right now for our, we're in refrigeration, we're dealing with R290 is kind of the new one coming in. That is our hydrocarbon refrigerant, but R32 certainly is a popular one. So how do I feel about side work? John Gorthy asked that question. That's a good question, John. So I look at it from two ways, okay? I can remember when I was just a service technician, but also I'm a business owner, okay? So as a business owner, I can't control my technicians on their personal time, but I can be 100% sure, and well, you know, the rules are that there better not be any side work that competes with us, period. Okay, they can't be a conflict of interest between the technician and us. But also, my service vehicle, my tools, those are mine. Those are not for the technician to use on their personal time or during side work. Now, other companies have different policies, okay? I understand if a technician needs to go help his mom or his brother or his best friend, all they need to do is talk to me and we'll work something out, okay? But the big thing is that if a technician is going and using my tools, my van, my likeness, that kind of stuff, and they look bad, then it reflects badly on me, and that's a problem, okay? Now, another thing that is completely unacceptable at our company is, let's say a service technician on his personal time wants to go try to fix something at one of our restaurant managers' homes. That is completely unacceptable. You do not mix that, because that's work. If you do something wrong at a manager's home or, you know, something like that, you guys get what I'm trying to say, then it reflects badly on the company. So I'm not a fan of side work, but I understand. I mean, some people got to make a couple extra bucks and it is what it is, but so long as it's not on company time, not using company resources, or not making the company look bad. So that's my opinion, at least. Ralph, you said you're planning on buying the field piece probes. Should you buy now or wait for the new model? As far as I know, Ralph, there's not going to be a new model for the field piece probes anytime soon. I can safely say that I have not heard a single thing about a new model of field piece probes. And I don't know everything about field piece, but I do have some insider information, and I have not been told anything about new probes. So I would say that if you're considering buying them, find the best deal and go for it. All right, so let me see what I'm missing here. Favorite micron vacuum gauge I've used. Okay, so I do not know how to pronounce your name, Hashimi. I'm not even gonna try, bro. Sorry. So the micron gauge that I use, again, I'm not passing judgment on anybody else, but I use the Hvacr Professional micron gauge. That's what I've been using, and I really like it. It works really well. The cool thing about the Hvacr Professional, or any of the Hvacr micron gauges, but in general, is that they can handle positive pressure. So if you're working with like probes, or you're doing a system where, you know, technically, again, this is kind of getting a little crazy, but when you go to take a micron gauge off of a system that's in a vacuum before you charge it, theoretically, you're pulling air into that system for a slight, you know, millisecond, but that is air. So the cool thing about the Hvacr gauges is you can go ahead and charge the unit up. Put your holding charge in there, dump the gas in on your high side, let the pressures rise up. The Hvacr can handle it. So I really like the Hvacr, and the Hvacr has a cool app too. So, and it works really well. So, all right, let's see what else I got. Am I taking tomorrow off? No, Scott. I mean, we're going to work. Right now, we're kind of slow. So, you know, like today, I think everybody worked kind of half day. So, you know, we'll depending on the call schedule, you know, someone might take tomorrow off. We did the same thing for like Christmas Eve. It's not a paid holiday on Christmas Eve, but I think everybody took the day off. Or no, I myself and another tech worked a half a day on Christmas Eve. So the holidays are always kind of funky. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I really enjoy spending time with family, but I am ready to get back to normal. I'm ready for the new year to start. I'm ready for, you know, new quarter to start. So restaurants start spending money again. I'm ready just to get back to normal. I have a bunch of installations that we need to do, and we've kind of been holding off because the holidays are always kind of screwy. So I'm just ready for things to get back to normal. So I don't know how many times I can say that. All right, let's see what else. Hydrocarbons are the best drug humanity ever created. I don't know what you mean by that one, Molly. A lot of people like hydrocarbon refrigerants. I mean, it is what it is. Here's my take on all these different refrigerants, right? 30 years ago, R22 or R12, 40 years ago, R12 was a saving grace. It was the best thing since sliced bread, right? Then 10 years later, R22 is the best thing since sliced bread. Then 404. Then, I mean, it's just like there's always something new. So is there one that I'm, like more than the other? Not really. Just sit down and buckle up because, R290s this year, R448A is this year. Next year, something totally different. They're already talking about, phase outs for 410A. That one's coming too. So, I mean, it's just sit down and buckle up. I wouldn't be afraid of it, but, I'm not going to pick one that's my favorite because they're changing so fast now that, I'm sure that we're going to figure out that, the resources using all R290 for the world is going to deplete whatever. And, who knows? So, but while I'm on the topic, I'll actually go ahead and segue into something else too. Okay, so today I'm working with a particular restaurant chain, and they buy their own equipment. It's just the nature of the beast when you're dealing with national chains, okay? It's how it works, so you just get used to it. So they're buying their own equipment, and the equipment is shipped from a distributor in another state in the U.S. here, okay? So California has some very stringent refrigerant regulations. As of January 1st of 2019, so last year, it became illegal to use R404A refrigerant on any new major retrofit and or new installations of refrigeration equipment, walk-ins and stuff like that. Reach-in coolers, the phase-out was a little bit different, but talking about walk-ins. So anyways, I have a restaurant customer right now that they authorized some replacement of some equipment, and the manufacturer, the rep that was going to ship the equipment emails me and says today, hey, Department of Energy says that you can use this you can use 404 as long as the equipment was made before 2020. And that is not true. Okay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, guys, there's a lot of misinformation, and I don't blame the manufacturer's representative that's selling the equipment. I don't blame them because the rules are so confusing to understand, okay? So the manufacturer's representative that's shipping the equipment wanted to ship me R404A equipment, and I told him, no, you can't. We have to use something besides R404A. My personal choice is R448A, okay? So I said, we need 448A equipment, and he says no, and he sends me a link with information from the Department of Energy saying that it's okay to use that particular equipment. And no, it's not. But here's the confusing thing, okay? That rule applies to the other states in the United States that are adopting that rule. But in California, we make our own rules, right? Because we can, okay? California is so weird and liberal and whatever. No, not getting political, but California's silly about a lot of things. So California has their own governing board called the California Air Resources Board. They officially made it illegal as of January 1st, 2019 to use R404A refrigerant on new installations. So again, to make a long story long, the reason why I brought that up is the person that is selling the equipment is giving false information because they don't understand the rules either. I've said this many times before. You need to do your own research and know the laws, and don't just trust the guy at the supply house counter because he told you so. Because that guy at the supply house counter is not going to defend you when you go to court. Neither would his defense do anything for you. You need to do your own research, do your own due diligence, figure out the rules. Okay. Now, with that being said, we are, and I don't know if Ralph is in here or not, but my buddy Ralph from Honeywell, I've been talking with him back and forth, and I do have a plan. Come the new year, I am going to get together with Honeywell Refrigerants, and we are going to talk to someone from their legal department or something like that that knows about the rules and the laws, and we're going to figure out a way to get that information to you guys to make it plain and simple. I don't understand all the silly legal lawyer speak and all that stuff. I just want it plain and simple, broken down. You can use this, you can't use this. Yes or no. That is my plan. If we can get together and we can hash it out, then we will do that come the new year on this channel. That way we can make, because there's a lot of new states adopting this new law where you're not going to be able to use 404A refrigerants. It's not all of them, but there's a lot of, it's really confusing. So we'll try to make that easier for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to check out the chat and see what I missed in here. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I got you. You know what, Terry? I'm not going to agree or disagree with you, but I understand your comment there saying it's all a scam to cheat money out of everyone. You know, that is someone's opinion. I've heard it. You know, there's merit to both sides. You know, a lot of the people want to say that it's hurting the environment. Hey, you know, the documents say that it does hurt the environment. So, I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. But then there's also people saying that it doesn't. It goes both ways, guys. But regardless, here's the bottom line. We have no say in the matter. It is what it is. The rule is what it is. So we just got to follow it. So like I said, sit down and buckle up because these changes are going to keep coming. And you know what? As a contractor, it's really not that big of a deal because guess what? It's a moneymaker. It really is. I mean, when it breaks down to it, it's a moneymaker because if you're going to convert that system, you're going to have to do some changes. It's not just going to be a simple change out. You're going to do a few things. It may not be major, but I mean, you got to do some things to make it work. So, hey, it is what it is, right? We're just along for the ride. So, all right, let's see what I'm missing in here. Ice machine freeze time. Oh, okay, let me see if I'm missing this. Okay. Okay. Anthony Lovato, you said ice machine freeze time won't stop. Adjusted ice thickness, but no help. Maybe bad thermostat. Anthony, it depends on what type of ice machine you're working on, bud. You give me some clarification, I can definitely help you out. I mean, I know a little bit about some of the ice machines, so you got to tell me what type of ice machine, and I can talk to you a little bit more about the sequence of operation. So let's see what else I got in here. Oh, yeah, it looks like the movie quote's already in there, too. This one's a little more obscure, so I'm curious if anybody will get this. This is a movie that I watched last week. Let's see, I got emails. I don't know if I got emails saying what the movie quote was. Oh, yeah, Gary got it. Gary, that's funny. Gary already got the movie quote. See, Gary got the movie quote the last time, too, so that's funny. Yeah, it is Uncle Buck is the movie, so that's a good movie, too. I actually just watched that yesterday. Really good movie. I like John Candy. All right, let's see what else. No worries. All right. Oh, yeah. Let's make this absolutely 100% clear. For everybody that is watching this, if someone doesn't believe what I'm saying, you need to convince them otherwise. R22 is not illegal. It is not illegal to put R22 refrigerant in equipment, period. Okay? It's not. Okay, the only thing that changed is that R22 is illegal to import brand new or import into the United States, and it's illegal to manufacture in the United States. Okay, we have stockpiles and stockpiles of refrigerant. R22 will be available for years to come. Right now, R22 is the cheapest it has been in like 7 years. It's kind of crazy too, right? Kind of makes you wonder about the hype of when the prices went up 3 years ago and they skyrocketed to like $800 a drum. It's so cheap right now compared to that. So there is a lot of misinformation about R22 for the especially, and the reason why I'm picking on the residential companies is because they're the ones that are putting marketing ads out. Not everyone in particular, but there is residential companies that are flooding the internet with misinformation saying that it is illegal to charge your R22 system, or there's misleading ads by national companies. I even hear them on my radio, not necessarily saying it's illegal, but saying that R22 is, you know, illegal to bring into the United States. Go ahead and they'll send out a service technician to tell you how old your system is so that way they can give you a quote to replace it. And it's like, come on. I mean, if their system's working, leave it be. Now, it's okay if during a preventative maintenance, you know, you notice that there's something going out and then you talk them into that. But, you know, this aggressive marketing that's going on is kind of silly. So, all right, let's see what else. What am I missing? Have I worked with R513? I've never even heard of R513, Oscar. Scotsman, self-contained water pump sprays up onto cup like a copper evaporator coil. Anthony, if I remember right, Scotsman's. Send me an email, Anthony. I'm trying to remember the Scotsman ice machines. It depends on which ice machine it is. If it's the CM3 model, he used to have the blue board in it. That one was a timed, I think it was timed that it would, I can't remember, dudes. Send me an email. While we're talking about ice machines too, another thing on my list, really important for me to bring up, is that training season is upon us, guys. All of the ice machine manufacturers are going to start their training classes. Actually, Scott or Follett might have already done theirs. They pretty much start them the beginning or the end of the year to the beginning of the year. They start the training across the United States. So here in Southern California, our ice machine trainings are anywhere from December to February, usually, sometimes into April. But all you have to do to sign up for the ice machine trainings, usually they're a very small cost if they are a cost at all. Some of them are free. Some of them cost like $100 or something like that. And they're usually a regional service training. It's a 8-hour class, usually maybe a half-day class. And they usually feed you and then just talk about the new ice machines. So to find out about any of the ice machine training classes, just go to the manufacturer's website, okay? HoshizakiIce.com, ManitowocIce.com, FollettIce.com. I'm trying to think if I'm Isomatic. I don't remember what, but just Google search. Just ask the Google for the ice machine brand, and you'll find the training classes, guys. Sometimes you may have to find out who their distributors are and call the distributors direct. Out here in Southern California, our distributor for Manitowoc Ice Machines is Western Pacific Distributors. They're up north too. They do the training classes for Manitowoc. Hoshi has their own distribution, so they do their own training classes. So just look into that, guys, because the ice machine trainings will really help you out. And usually, unless they change things, usually they give you out those books that everybody's always asking me about that I use in my videos. For the most part, I know that they're going to eventually start phasing those out, but they give out those little tech spec books at the training classes for you to take home with you. So for those of you that always see those in my videos and you ask me where to get them, that's where I get them from, the training classes. And, you know, if I'm in the class and there's some extra seats, I'll ask the person putting it on, hey, can I take this extra book? And they usually let me. So that's how I get so many of those books. So check out those training classes, guys. Let's see what I'm missing in here. How about 502? We used to deal a lot with 502. I mean, that was a refrigerant we had to deal a lot with before 404 was a popular one. 502 was a refrigerant that they used. It was a low temperature refrigerant that was used with mineral oil. So the cool thing about 502 was when the replacement happened, all you really needed to do for the most part is change the compressor, because the compressor had the oil in it. Change the compressor. You could use the same TXV when 404 first came out, and you could call it a day, use the same evap, just make sure that you didn't have a bunch of oil in it, that's all. But yeah, 502 was a good refrigerant too. It had a very unique smell. I can still remember the smell of 502 refrigerant. I just uninstalled a 502 system. I changed it out to a new Heatcraft condensing unit. It was a Larkin walk-in freezer unit from 1987, I think, 502, and we just changed it out. It was still running. It was just, I think it had a leak or something, so... all right, let's see what else we got going on in here. So is it illegal to put 404 in a new condensing unit because condenser in new? Terry, so in California, it is illegal to use R404A refrigerant on walk-in refrigeration, medium temp or low temp, if it's a retrofit or a new installation. It is illegal. Now, it is still okay to do a leak repair with 404A refrigerant in California and add 404 to the system. But definitely want to do your research and don't just trust what I say, okay? Do your research. All you have to do is look up CARB. And in fact, you know what? It's easy enough. I'll just pull it up real quick. So CARB, California Air Resources Board, 404. 404. That's all I'm searching. CARB 404. And let's see if I can come up with a list right here, and it basically, this is the California Air Resources Board website. So let me pull this up, and it simply says it right here. If I can go ahead and transition that over. This is the California Air Resources Board website. All that I did was Google search CARB space 404, and this was the first thing that popped up. And it simply tells you right here, talks about aerosols, foams. That's not my problem. And you go down here and it says retail food refrigeration, and it says supermarket systems, retrofit, remote condensing units, retrofit, and it breaks down the prohibited refrigerants, 404, 507, and a bunch of other ones, 422, C, D, all these weird ones. And it just tells you right here, unacceptable as of these dates, January 1st, 2019. And then I believe, let's see if it does down here. No, it doesn't. It doesn't give you the information right here, but there's somewhere that I read that it breaks down what the difference between a retrofit is versus a new installation. But either way, for retrofit or new installation, you're not allowed to use R404A refrigerant in California. So let me go ahead and transition my camera back over. Bam, there we go. And we'll go back to that. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there about that. So just be careful, okay? And remember, R22 is not illegal. You can still use it. It's just a matter of, is it cost effective to use it? You know, I'm not saying that it's not a bad idea to sell a customer a new system that has R22. I totally get that, so long as the repair is justifiable. But I don't believe in people selling systems just because it has R22. You know, I mean, who am I to judge? But that sounds a bit shady just because it has R22. Now, if it's going out, it has leaks, sure, that's a justifiable repair because you can say, you know, it's going to cost this much. And then, you know, but again, I'm not a business person, so I'm not judging anybody for what they're doing. So, all right, let's see what else. Ask the Google. That's right. My buddy, I can't claim credit for that one. A buddy at a party made that joke one time, and I just use it all the time. When someone asks me what to do, I said, ask the Google. So, all right, let me see. What am I missing? If I miss questions, throw them in there again, guys, okay? Instead of R22, what do you replace it with? So personally, right now, I am still using R22 refrigerant to this day, but there is a lot of great replacement refrigerants, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct you to my buddy Ralph. Again, I haven't seen him in here yet, but he will help you with all kinds of different alternatives for R22 refrigerant. So here is his email right here. You guys can feel free to send him an email and he will help you out with the different replacements for R22. Okay, there's all kinds of them. The biggest thing with the R22 replacements is just remember, there's a few refrigerants that of the replacement ones that will work without an oil change. But if you read the fine print, they all say it's best to change the oil. So if you're going to do an R22 retrofit, my suggestion is going to be to do it right and change the oil and or change the compressor. Okay, you can change oil in a compressor. Now, if it's a hermetically sealed compressor, you know, that's brazed in, you're going to have to unsweat it, pour the oil out, pour new oil. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but that is something. Okay, but again, there's alternatives and there's refrigerants that will work. You know, some people say adding a little bit of POE to the mineral oil and different things like that. Okay, but bottom line, if you read the fine print of any of the refrigerants, the fine print is going to tell you that it works best with polyester oil. Okay, so let's see what else we got. What is the proper steps to convert a system from mineral oil to POE? So Lorenzo basically is kind of what I mentioned, but remove the refrigerant from the system, remove the oil from the system. If it's a semi-hermetic compressor, you're in luck because those are super easy to get the oil out of. If it's a bigger scroll compressor, you're super in luck because a lot of times they have oil ports on them that you can drain the oil out, okay? But if it's a pot compressor, a reciprocating pot compressor that's brazed in, the only way to get the oil out of that really is unsweat the compressor and pour the oil out or pump it out. But getting a little mechanism down there to suck all that oil out is going to be a pain in the butt. And then obviously replace the oil that you took out. The amount that you took out, you put that same amount back in. Well, I guess you got to be careful about that. You put the right oil charge in the system, but you have to pay attention, okay? And replace it with polyester oil. Going through all those steps, to be honest with you, you're better off. And you want to make sure, too, that the compressor manufacturer approves the lubricant you're going to put in there. Because if it's a really old compressor, Copeland or Tecumseh may not approve polyester oil in that system. So in that case, you might be better off changing the compressor. So, all right, let's see what else. Tony, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I've said that last name before, but I cannot pronounce it. I'm sorry. Tony, you asked me, should you be using shielded control cables for VFD installs? Tony, I am not a VFD expert, okay? There's a gentleman named John Oakes that's in a Facebook group. I think he has a Facebook group called VRF something or other, and he's more of an expert when it comes to VRF installations and service, so I would definitely lean on him. But shielded cable is often used when you're running control wiring in areas where you might have problems with EMF, electromagnetic feedback. Running shielded cable is always better than not running shielded cable, but as far as a requirement for VRF installations, I can't answer that one, bud, okay? I do not know, so. Let's see. Any refrigerant period is known to the state of California to cause, yeah, it is. Any refrigerant, anything known. I bet you anything, if I look at this paperclip box, there's, no? apparently to California, these paper clips don't cause cancer. So I think this is the only thing that doesn't cause cancer in California. So let's see. Got a curious HVAC guy here. Hey, Bill, I'm pretty sure that this sticker causes cancer and there's no warning label on it. So you might be out of compliance, Bill. So, all right. Do forced air condenser have a condensing unit? Pretty cure forever. I really don't understand your question, bud, and I'd be happy to answer it. But do me a favor and send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com with some more context, and I'll try to answer your question there. Okay? All right, let's see what else. All right, I'm going to get to my list of stuff here real quick, and I will get to some more questions in the chat, okay? Great question I had today just on a random video was someone had asked me on a Linux package unit that I had made a video on a while back. I work on Linux commercial package units, okay? They're actually one of my favorite package units right now for commercial. Anyways, it was a Intergens unit that had 3 compressors in it, and I was replacing a thermostat. And the technician had asked me, how come I didn't use a 3-stage thermostat if it had 3 compressors? So oftentimes, it's going to be more difficult to find a 3-stage thermostat. I'm not saying that they don't make them, but for the most part, I only install 2-stage thermostats. But the cool thing about the Linux package units and other package units too, I've seen it on Carriers, I've seen it on York, is if you have multiple compressors, more than 2, the logic inside the circuit board takes care of the 3rd and 4th stages, okay? So usually you only have to bring a 2-stage thermostat to the picture, and on the call for 2nd stage, it usually controls the last couple compressors together, and it uses the computer board in the unit to figure out its logic and, you know, turn them on and off. So in that particular situation, I only needed to bring a 2-stage thermostat to that unit, and then the logic board basically controlled the rest, okay? Let's see. R422B is a good change for R22. Cool, right on. I haven't used it yet, but, you know, there's a lot of different flavors, as some people say, okay? So let's see what else. Okay, so this is a good one right here. So visual inspections, okay? Understanding how systems operate. And the reason why I'm saying this was I had a question where someone commented on one of my videos and they said, hey, you want to be careful because apparently I condemned a condenser fan motor because it wasn't spinning. Now, I'm sure that the person misunderstood me because I know better than to condemn a condenser fan motor, but there's nothing wrong. I mean, I'm not mad. I appreciate any comment or any feedback on my videos, guys, whether it be positive or negative. I usually address them all, and let's have a conversation about it, okay? Now, here's the only thing. The only rule I have, you can put whatever comment you want on my channel, and I don't think I've ever deleted someone's comment, positive or negative, unless it mentioned a restaurant name. I don't allow any restaurant names in my comments. So whether it's the correct guess or the wrong guess, I usually delete restaurant names in the comments. Those are the only comments I delete, okay? But anyways, so this person had asked me about condemning a condenser fan motor because it wasn't running. I thought this was the perfect time to take this. Now, I know better than to condemn a condenser fan motor just because it's not running. I'm not saying that I won't look at a fan motor and say that's bad, okay? Because if you understand the sequence of operation and you have a fan motor that's not running, you can usually use your senses and figure out if it's bad, okay? Obviously, you want to check to make sure if it has a capacitor that the capacitor is working right. In my situation, restaurants oftentimes will have fan cycle controls on 2nd stage or sometimes primary condenser fan motors. So yes, it is very dangerous to just look at a motor and say it's bad because it's not running, because it could have a fan cycling control, which could turn on and off the fan motor depending on the ambient temperatures, okay? But the important thing is to understand sequences of operation, okay? If you know a system does not have a fan cycle control on it and you see a fan motor not running, then you look into it, okay? If you know that a system has a fan cycle control and a fan motor is not running, let's still look into it, but you understand how systems operate. It's so important to understand sequence of operation before you go into equipment or have a general knowledge of how they work. So that way you're not completely alarmed when you walk up to a system and you see that a fan motor is not running. Well, that could be bad or it could not be bad. Is it the middle of the summer, it's 120 degrees outside and the fan motor's not running? That's bad, okay? But you know, if it's cold outside or cooler, it might cycle off on, you know, ambient temperature or system pressure. Who knows? Okay. So understanding sequence of operation is extremely important when we're working. Let's see if I'm missing anything here. Have I done any work on lead lag package unit configurations for telecom data buildings? I've never done work on a lead lag for a telecom building, but I do know train package units have a lead lag setup. So essentially a lead lag will, for the most part, let's just make it as easy as possible. You have two compressors, okay? The reason why telecom is probably a little bit more important, okay, or important data centers or things like that, okay, is for the most part, they don't cycle off the air conditioning equipment because they want to maintain certain temperatures at certain temperature differentials, and they don't want to see temperature swings inside data rooms and stuff like that, okay? So oftentimes what that means is they will usually put some sort of a hot gas bypass on the compressor, okay, with a desuperheating expansion valve, and they'll typically continue to run that unit all the time, and then that way they don't have compressors that shut off. They also do this for energy requirements in the supermarket systems and stuff like that, okay? I'm losing my train of thought as I'm talking right here. I had a whole point I wanted to make, and it's like totally getting lost here. Okay, now another thing though too is, and that's why I was going off on a tangent. So the most basic lead lag system is going to be a system that has two compressors, and they sequence which compressor is the primary and which compressor is the secondary. Okay, they'll do that for energy reasons. And the reason why I was bringing up the hot gas defrost is because especially on some, again, I don't want to get too crazy into the supermarket stuff because I don't know a whole lot about that, but on some industrial stuff or supermarket stuff, it may be more efficient to keep the compressor running at all times. And they would, if you had two compressors, they would swap the compressors every couple days so that one was a primary, one was a secondary, and then they would swap them to get even runtime on each compressor. Okay, so that's a situation where you might see a lead lag setup where they have some sort of a timer or some sort of a control board that might sequence which compressor is going to be the lead and which one's going to be the lag to make up the difference when needed. Okay, I'm not, again, a genius when it comes to that stuff. Okay, I just have a general understanding of how it works, so I may have said something incorrect inside there, but you know. Hey Jeff, thank you very much for that super chat. I really appreciate it. Okay, all right, let's see. Jeff, I used to do work for some Applebee's restaurants, and they had Aeons out here too. And I've seen Aeon on a couple other restaurants too. None of the ones that I service, but the Applebee's used to have Aeons, but they were the most basic Aeons in the world. Electromechanical controls, no computer boards or anything. So we were lucky in that aspect, okay? Let's see what else I got going on. What am I missing here? Let me see. Okay, cool. I'm not seeing anything in there yet. Okay. Let me go ahead and get to my list of other things I wanted to talk about. Okay. This is a great question. Okay. So what happens if a customer doesn't listen to my ideas to prevent further problems? And great example, today I had a service. Actually, I haven't made the video yet, but I've had some footage that I've been wanting to edit down, and it's on an exhaust fan that wasn't working properly. Okay. And ironically, I have even more footage on that same exhaust fan from a couple months ago where I had a motor starter trip in the middle of the weekend, and I couldn't find a reason for the motor starter to trip. Everything has been working fine, and it worked for like a couple months, and then it tripped again. But it happened, actually, no, it didn't trip again. Then it happened again, and I happened to be there. Yeah, it did. It tripped again. So I happened to be there doing something else. And what had happened was I turned off the fan to check the belt. And when I turned it on, the motor starter tripped. Well, what I found was the switch, the three-phase switch had failed. Okay. Spoiler alert, because that'll be in a video soon. So now flash forward to today. When I found that switch bad, I talked to the customer and I said, hey, we should change all the electrical conduit on this exhaust fan too. The fan is in really bad shape, but we should at least change the conduit and change the switch. And the customer declined me changing the conduit. Okay. So I recommended to them that I change the conduit, and they said no, they just wanted the switch changed. So what do I do in that situation? Because I know that that conduit is broken and cracked. It's going to become an electrical short later. You just put everything in documentation, guys. I document everything to the customer, and I make sure that it's explicitly clear what my recommendations are. And then if they choose something else, so be it. My ass is covered because I documented it and gave them all the necessary information and let them make those decisions. I really like when customers make decisions like that, to be honest with you, okay? Because for the most part, it mostly makes me look good, because when that exhaust fan fails in a couple months because of a shorted out wire in that conduit or something, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I'm hoping that they're going to remember. They're going to see that, hey, we just had a service call on this. We declined repairs and it shorted out again. And then I'm going to write in the invoice, conduit shorted out, noted electrical problems previously or something like that. Okay. So when we get customers that don't listen to us, we make those recommendations. Okay. The reason why someone had brought this up was because in a video I mentioned about having a refrigeration system in a particular restaurant that I've done a lot of videos in where we have oil return problems. The evaporators downstairs and the expansion valves get flooded with oil, and therefore later on down the line, if you don't add oil to the compressor, it doesn't make its way back up there. And the person had asked me, well, why don't I recommend adding oil separators to the system? And that's a great idea. Most of the time, the customers don't want to get that complex. They don't want me to reinvent their equipment, okay? Even though, and again, I've actually had this discussion with that particular customer. I can put an oil separator on here and we could keep this oil from going downstairs and we won't ever have this problem. But the cost of installing the oil separator and all this different stuff is going to cost you X number of dollars. And a lot of the times the customer says, no, we're going to go ahead and decline that. Let's just deal with what we have. And if we change a compressor, we change a compressor. Okay. That's just how it works with restaurants. So you're just along for the ride. And oh my God, Curtis, thank you very much for that. Holy crap, Curtis. Dude, that is an awesome super chat. Thank you very much, Curtis. Holy moly. Wow. Really cool, dude. Thank you so very much, man. Happy New Year. Oh, snap. You're the man, Curtis, dude. Anyways, that was awesome, dude. All right. Wow. Way to distract me, Curtis. Thank you, though. That was a good distraction. You are the man, bud. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks so much, dude. Yeah. So, when it comes to the restaurants, you give them everything and document everything. Okay. That's why though, it is so important, especially for new guys and maintenance guys, to understand how systems operate, guys. If you don't know how a system operates, how can you do a proper preventative maintenance on that particular piece of equipment? Yes, any monkey can go change a filter and slap a belt on there, but even a monkey can mess up a belt and make it too tight. So, as a new guy in the trade, you guys need to really dig into this equipment. You need to understand and research the sequence of operation and know, okay? Don't wait for someone to tell you how to do it. You guys need to figure it out. That's the best advice I can give to anybody in this industry is don't wait for someone to tell you how to do it. It's super easy. Figure it out yourself, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see if I have a list of questions, please. Just yeah, if you have if you have a list, yeah, definitely. Let me see what I'm missing here. Okay, what if you have a compressor with slightly low pressure R22, but temperature on compressor is over 165? That seems too high. Okay, so here's the deal. R22 refrigerant runs high discharge temperatures. Okay. So on the compressors, you tend to have essentially in a nutshell, hotter compressors. Okay. If a compressor, I don't know all the details. If a system is undercharged, your compressor typically is going to overheat. And if your system is overcharged, your compressor can overheat too. All right. So it's very important, especially with R22, as you got to lower temperatures, we would have a lot of issues because of the high compression ratios, with R22 systems, essentially in medium temp and low temp, we would have overheat issues. And sometimes that's why R22 is not a super popular gas with the low temp stuff. It kind of did okay as medium temp and it does great as air conditioning, but you tend to have some issues with the low temp stuff for sure. Now that kind of segues me into another thing that I have on my list here. And this was a great question that came in today, and let me find it right here. Great one right here. Okay. So the question was, and I'm going to paraphrase what he asked me. He said, can the system pressure be correct when the sight glass is still flashing? And that's an interesting question, right? The short answer is no. Okay. Well, yeah. But I guess you can answer yes too. But here's the thing. Let's not worry about pressures, guys. Let's break it down to an air conditioning system. Easiest one. Okay. What temperature do you want? Is it in the space right now? What temperature is it outside? You can predict what your refrigerant pressure should be. I believe it was Jim Bergman that said on a podcast when he was doing it with Brian Orr in the very beginning, and I'm sure someone else came up with this too, is you have no business putting your service gauges on a system if you don't know what the pressures should be before you put them on. And I'm not talking just the PSI numbers, okay? Let's focus on the saturation temperatures. If you understand an air conditioner, a refrigerator, a refrigeration system, you need to understand and start focusing on saturation temperatures versus pressures, okay? Let's get out of the idea of what my pressure should be, because if you just focus on what the temperature should be, oftentimes you'll find it easier to understand, especially in refrigeration, okay? If you understand that on a walk-in cooler, for the most part, your evaporator TD is 10 degrees, okay? That means that your evaporator saturation temperature should be 10 degrees below the box temp, okay? That's pretty easy to understand, right? If you remember that number, doesn't matter what refrigerant, for the most part, as a rule of thumb, on a walk-in cooler, your evaporator TD is going to be about 10 degrees, sometimes a little bit higher, but 10 degrees is the easiest way to understand it. So that means that if you have a 40-degree box, your evaporator temperature, the saturation temperature, should be 30 degrees. Guess what? It doesn't matter what refrigerant or what pressure, because if I know the saturation temperature of whatever refrigerant, I can predict what the pressures would be, right? Guess what? On the roof, you can almost do the same thing when you're dealing with refrigeration. For the most part, if it's a microchannel condenser, your condenser TD is going to be anywhere from 12 degrees to 20 degrees, somewhere in there, okay? But if it's a tube and fin old school condenser, your condenser condensing temp over ambient or your condenser TD, those are a lot easier. I'm losing my train of thought again as I'm talking, but you guys get the gist of what I'm saying, okay? If you pay attention to the saturation temperatures, it's a lot easier than to understand the pressures. So to answer your question, bud, if the system pressures are okay, well, the sight glass is, can the sight glass still be flashing, okay? Let's not look at pressures, okay? And let's look at the sight glass. Does the system have an expansion valve? Where's the sight glass installed? Remember, a sight glass is just a window into the system at the point that it's installed, okay? So is the sight glass flashing on the roof? Is the filter dryer before or after the sight glass? Does the filter dryer have a pressure drop across it, okay? The idea, if there's a pressure drop across the filter dryer, maybe your sight glass is flashing because of that reason, or maybe your sight glass is flashing because you're low on charge, okay? There's a bunch of different variables that go into that. I kind of feel like I went off on a little bit of a tangent answering your question, and if I didn't answer it clearly, feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, okay? All right, let's see what else. Matt Dillon, would I recommend a demand conservation device for a commercial application? Matt, can you, those are big words for me. Can you break that down for what you're trying to say? I don't know if I understand exactly what it is you're asking me there, bud. So break it down for me, or feel free to send me an email, okay? Let me see. High side pressure is 250. Low side pressure is 40 for automotive. Ken Moore. Okay, now, great point. Yes, in the automotive side, they may tell you pressures, right? But remember, even on the automotive side, refrigerant isn't always a set pressure. It changes. So your high side pressure on automotive is going to go up when it's hotter outside, and your low side pressure is going to go down when it gets colder in the car. Okay. Now I realize that a lot of times in an automotive system, you're running a somewhat controlled environment, but, it's more or less that was a rule of thumb, and it got people by for a long time. But if you break it down and understand the systems in automotive, it actually does change temperatures and pressures. Now, I'm not an expert with automotive, okay? And I realize that people have gotten by for many years, but that's also the reason probably why when someone has a problem with automotive, they don't just add gas. They probably just recover the gas and weigh it in, because that's the easiest way. So, all right. What's the best way I have found to keep a pizza prep table condenser clean? You have problems keeping flour out of them. In that situation, putting a filter media on there and having, even if you can't go back, give the customer extra filter media and have them change them weekly. Put it in there with a plastic straw, bend the straw in half, shove it in the condenser, And then that way it doesn't, you know, go through. Sometimes people use toothpicks, and I've seen them stick skewers through the condenser fan motors and stop it from running and stuff. But, you know, in some situations, especially when you go to like pizza restaurants and stuff like that, I can say it because I don't do any of the work, but if you do work for like Little Caesars Pizza or anything like that, they beat the crap out of that equipment. And yeah, you're going to get flour all over it. So, you know, talk to the restaurant operators. If they don't want you coming back weekly to change a filter, have them change them. You know, at a normal restaurant, you know, we typically will change a filter every month to whatever they want the duration of the maintenance. But if they have a really dirty, greasy, you know, I'm going to recommend that they do it more often, and we'll probably give them some extras. So that way you can just swap them out basically. Have I noticed condensate blow off on York top units, specifically the Predators? No, I really haven't. I don't have a crap ton of Predator units, but I do have probably 15 or 20 of them out there. I've never noticed a blow off problem. That's interesting. I mean, you know, again, not knowing the complete issue, you know, one of the issues with blow off oftentimes is airflow problems. Either not enough airflow or too much, depending on the situation. Now, I will say the York Predators, I don't want to pick on them, but they are plagued with a lot of issues. Not my favorite package unit out there, but they are a moneymaker for sure. So, but yeah, feel free to send me an email if I didn't answer that correctly, okay? hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Tariq, where can you get the Fundamentals of HVACR book on the bookshelf, the blue one? Oh, that's an old book, man. There's much newer copy of this. This was published in, gosh, this is my book from probably 2005. So this is an old book. I just keep it handy. I will say that one of the authors for this book was Carter Stanfield, and I actually interact with him on Facebook sometimes. It's funny because I would interact with him every once in a while, and I didn't put two and two together that it was the guy that wrote this book. So yeah, this is the AHRI, Air Conditioning and Heating and Refrigeration Institute, Fundamentals of HVACR by Carter Stanfield and David Scaves. I'm sure there's a newer copy. Just check it out on Amazon or something like that. All right, let's see what else we got. Let me see what I'm missing here. Okay, guys, if I missed anything in here, definitely throw it in again. I'm going to get some more of my stuff in here, and we'll go through there, okay? Or we'll go through my list here. Great question. Do I eat ice when I go to restaurants? Do I eat ice when I go to a fast food place? You guys really want to know what the answer is? Yes. I'm not afraid. Right, guys? I work in restaurants. I see how nasty ice machines can get. Ignorance is bliss, guys. You'd be surprised, man. Some of the stuff that we clean out of ice machines is nasty, but I still get ice. I mean, you know, if I know that it's a disgusting restaurant, if I'm in the drive-thru and I can see their ice machine isn't maintained, then maybe I'll tell them no ice. But yeah, I get ice, guys. I drink iced tea, you know, or water. That's all I've been drinking lately. And not even that much iced tea. But yeah, you got to have ice with iced tea. So I'm not afraid of it, guys. What doesn't kill you make you stronger, right? All right. Let's see. What have I got? Okay, I'm going to keep going through my list right here. Great question here, too. If the system is not marked, how do we know what refrigerant is in the system? Guys, we just use some basic troubleshooting skills. Now, when we didn't have these high glide refrigerants, it was a lot easier, okay? But if we have these newer refrigerants, it is imperative that when we're doing a system install, let's say I'm installing with 448A, I have to make sure that I mark it to where it's completely and blatantly clear what refrigerant is in that system. Because guess what? If you guys don't already know, with 448A, we're using R22 expansion valves. So the expansion valve, sometimes we'll say R22 on the top. So people will think, oh, it has R22, and they'll try to, and create a problem. All right. So it's very important that we mark it. Now, with the older refrigerants, especially the R12s, the 502s, the R22s, it was so easy. Okay. All you had to do was, essentially we just go look at the expansion valve, as easy as that. Okay. If the system wasn't marked. Okay. Oftentimes these days, compressors are manufactured for multi-refrigerant. So a model number on a compressor doesn't mean squat to me. Okay, the oil kind of gives me an idea, but it doesn't mean squat to me. All right. So marking your equipment is imperative. Okay. Doing some research. If you did the installation, I guess you could always ask the customer for installation invoices if you didn't, to see what refrigerants they used, if they actually wrote down the refrigerant type. You know, because the refrigerants are blends these days, it's not as easy to do standing pressure tests. You know, basically we used to be able to do on an air conditioner, you could do a standing pressure test where you open up all the panels, circulate the condenser fan motor, circulate the indoor blower motor, and just let the system run without the compressor for, you know, 20, 30 minutes. And then you could leave your gauges on there and take a temperature pressure chart and look at the temperature of the refrigerant, or compare the outdoor air temperature to the temperature of the refrigerant on the pressure temperature chart, and it would give you a pretty good idea. But with the new blends, it's a little bit harder to do that these days. So it's imperative that we mark our equipment. Just Russ, dude, thank you very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. So would I use a portable steamer to clean greasy restaurant condensers? So Russ, I'm assuming your name is Russ because it says Just Russ. I've been asked that question a bunch of times. I've never used a steamer before. I've never even seen a steamer that you would use to do that with. Sure, steam sounds like a great idea. Most of the time, I'm just going to grab a hose with hot water, put a little condenser coil cleaner on it, and blast that thing. But sure, a steamer sounds interesting. I just don't know. I've never used one, so I don't know, you know, what I would do. I've also been asked, why don't I use a steamer to clean ice machines? Why don't I use a steamer to defrost a walk-in freezer evaporator coil? All that kind of stuff. Just because I've never used one. I've never seen one. It's not something that's readily available. I mean, if it's a giant machine, when I picture a steamer, you know what I picture? Oh my goodness. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up right now because this is a funny one. I picture something from a movie. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let me find a picture of this. See if you guys, you older guys, get this image. This is what I picture when I picture a steamer. Is this guy right here. I'll pull this picture up right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let's see if this comes up. Oh man, it's not really going to work the way that I want it to. Yeah, it's not going to work. I can't screenshot, but I picture the suck cut from Wayne's World. When someone tells me about a steamer, I picture this giant machine, you know, that you're going to put up there and try to, you know, it just seems like a nuisance to me. But correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe a steamer is a really cool, small little device, but I picture this giant machine that just seems like it's going to be a nuisance to me. Okay. So that's funny. I want to watch Wayne's World now. That's funny. All right. Let me see what I'm missing here. Out of my experience, can a demand conservation device affect the indoor air temperature of a building? I don't know what you mean by demand conservation device, Matt. That's what I don't. Did I miss your thing? I don't know. Do you mean like economizer, Matt? Is that what you mean by demand conservation device? I'm sorry if you put it in there again. I don't know what you mean by that, bud. Someone asked about a thermal camera on the other channel. Let me see. What was the question? See if I can find it right here. I don't know. HVACR tech, you said my favorite acid test. If I was going to do an acid test, honestly, I haven't done a lot of them. Because usually my systems that have acid are going to be a burnout, so you can usually smell it. You know, I would probably use one of the kits, Refrigeration Technologies cells maybe, or also Sporlin used to have one that had different color chemicals and it would turn a certain color. I'm not a huge fan of those quick shot acid tests where you just put them on there and it blows the Schrader in there on like some litmus paper. I don't really see the use for those. Those don't seem very accurate to me. So if I'm going to do an acid test, it's going to be a chemical acid test where you take a sample of the oil, pour it into a solution, shake it up, and then it'll give you a clear indication of whether or not it's acidic by the way it changes colors. So I know Sporlin makes one of those. And like I said, Refrigeration Technologies makes one. I'm sure there's a couple other people too, but I don't have one in particular that I like more than the other. I don't know if I missed this question. On how, okay, so what thermal camera do I use? Oh, okay. I was looking for the full question there, Joe. Thank you. So, guys, I am currently working on doing a review on thermal cameras. I've been using 3 different thermal cameras right now. I've been using a Seek Shot Pro. Okay, I believe it was $700. I've been using a FLIR C3 I believe it was $599. And I've been using a FLIR 1 Pro, which I think was like $399. Okay, I wanted to pick three. The FLIR 1 Pro connects to your phone. I've got some interesting results. I have used, in the last two videos, I have used my Seek Shot Pro because that camera does video. All right. But I am going to be releasing a video on my new channel come the new year. The new channel should be in the show notes of this, but it's HVACR Tools. Do me a favor, give me a subscription. Go check it out. There's no videos on there yet, but give me a subscription. That way you guys are ready when I start uploading. But the first couple videos that I do is going to be my review on the different pants. I also bought several different types of work pants based on a couple polls and talking to some friends. And I basically tried them out for like 4 months, what type of pants that I like. And I came to a conclusion on the pants. And then I also came to a conclusion on the thermal cameras. So that will be coming soon. So keep an eye out and you guys will be able to see the reviews. I'm going to start doing things like that on that new channel, but remember something that, you know, I do things a little bit different than other people, and this is going to be my way. No judgment on anybody else. I just like doing things my way. So, it might be a little bit different, but you guys will see. So it'll be coming soon. All right. So I know I didn't really answer your question exactly, but those are the three that I'm using, and they all have good qualities, by the way, too. They have different price points, you know. So, all right. Have I tried an ultrasonic leak detector? Anthony Lovato. Funny that you asked that, Anthony. I am currently working on using an ultrasonic leak detector by AccuTrack right now, too. So we'll be talking about that soon, too. So that'll be something that'll come out on the new channel too. So yeah, I've got that new leak detector I've been working with. Yeah, you'll be seeing that coming soon. All right, let's see what else. What thermal imaging camera do I recommend? For that, you're going to have to watch the video that comes out. I'm not going to give my recommendation as of yet, but I will say that all three of those cameras are good cameras. But just stay tuned and you'll see. Okay, so I'll be releasing that soon. Let me see. My phone is blowing up from comments and messages and... let me see. Wow, there's a lot of different stuff there. All right. I see. All right, cool. So I'll get to those questions and stuff in the chat. Let's see. What advice do I have for new companies to get customers? Ben, that is a really interesting question, okay? In no way am I a perfect business person. In no way am I the most successful person in the world, okay? But number one, the backbone of your company has to be honesty and integrity. Okay, you have to be honest and people have to be able to trust you. You may be able to get by on selling quick fixes and stuff like that, but it will not last. Okay, the next biggest piece of advice that I can give to new companies is know your worth and don't price yourself so low that you're cheaper than everybody else, because you're hurting everybody else and you're hurting yourself. Okay, you need to price yourself on what you need. You need to figure out what your business costs are and you need to price yourself that way. Okay. I know you didn't ask me that, but when it comes to finding new customers, that is a difficult one. Depends on what kind of customers you want to go for. Okay. If you're going more the residential side, there's all kinds of different methods. Okay. You can market yourself. You can do Facebook ads. You know, there's all kinds of different podcasts and different stuff about marketing for residential companies. Okay. If you're going to commercial side, commercial is a little bit harder to get into. What I would suggest to get your foot in the door with commercial is start doing warranty work. Yes, nobody likes warranty work. You don't make no money doing warranty work. It sucks. Okay. But on the commercial side, if you can become an ASA, an authorized service agency, that gets you in the doors of the restaurants. Okay. You're in their door. You can hand out their card. They can see that you're clean, that you smell good, that you look like you know what you're doing. And that gets your foot in the door. Okay, so become an ASA, go to the training classes for whatever manufacturers, if you're dealing with the commercial stuff. All these things apply to residential too in another way, okay? But, you know, become a warranty person and that will get you in the door. You know, commercial is a little bit different because especially if you're dealing with like big, you know, mom and pops, you can go bang on doors and knock on doors. But if you want to get into like national chains and stuff like that, banging on a door ain't going to do you nothing because the corporate office is the one who makes the decision when it comes to big national chains and stuff like that. So getting in the door with warranty companies, getting into the restaurant to talk to managers and then asking them, hey, how do I get a hold of corporate? Then they can give you inside information on better ways to get a hold of corporate people because you typically won't find that information on the internet. So it is difficult. I'm going to tell you that our business, my dad started it in 1989, and I started working with them in 2000, and then we, became partners and all that stuff. But, we've never been a company that advertised. Okay. We started small when my dad started it, and it was word of mouth, and it's been word of mouth for the most part since. Okay. I did put our name on our vans, but that was just because a customer that we were working for required that our company name be on our vans to go on their property. That was the only reason why we have our name on our van. So I don't go out there and advertise in the Yellow Book or Facebook or whatever for my business. It's word of mouth, and you just show integrity and honesty, and it will slowly build. Okay. But again, I am not the person to tell you how to do everything. I'm not a business smart, savvy person. So, all right, let's see what else. Yeah, don't walk in smelling like weed. That's a really good tip. All right. Let me see what I missed. Let me see. All right. I'm not seeing anything in there, so I'm going to keep going with my ice machine training. Oh, yeah, definitely. Check with your parts supplier. Yeah, I had mentioned that earlier, Dave. But that's another good point, because there's new people in here, guys. I mentioned it earlier that ice machine training, it's the season, right? So look at the ice machine manufacturers' websites, look at their training schedules, and sign up for the training classes, guys. That's another way to get in with the manufacturer too, because any manufacturer won't make you an authorized service agency unless you've attended their training classes. That's another step too. So if you want to be a Manitowoc person, you at least have to attend their training classes. And if you want to work on Manitowoc ice machines and get on their list, you actually probably need to go back to Wisconsin and do their big training event, where you go back there for a couple days and do all that fancy stuff. But yeah, that's a whole thing. All right, let me get to my list here. Great question I had earlier. Why don't walk-in coolers utilize hot gas for defrost? This is the question from the person asking me, okay? First off, walk-in coolers do utilize hot gas for defrost. It actually is a rather common thing. Nowadays, we're not using it as much as we were in the past, okay? Because hot gas defrost is actually rather harsh on the system. And bottom line is that everybody wants things cheap and easy. Doing a hot gas defrost on a walk-in cooler, unless you're using like a reversing valve, a lot of times the older systems, you had to run a third defrost line or hot gas line back to the evaporator coil. And that was a little ridiculous. Okay. So, some new manufacturers have come out with like reversing valves for their hot gas defrost. I think Masterbuilt's doing that. Never really worked on those systems, but one of the downsides to hot gas defrost, guys, is it's just really hard on the system in general. Okay, you run extremely high superheat on the compressor, so if you're doing it right, they're going to have to put a desuperheating expansion valve to maintain proper refrigerant temperatures coming back to that compressor so you don't overheat it. I have read some interesting articles. Again, I haven't worked on a lot of hot gas defrost. When I first started as a young kid, there was a few of them out there. We had a couple restaurants that used to be like small grocery stores, so they had old school hot gas defrost racks and different things. But one of the interesting things that can happen on a hot gas defrost system when it comes to refrigeration is your lines, because of the expansion and contraction of the copper, can actually stretch quite a bit and shrink over time. It's a really interesting concept, but when you think about it, it's just thermodynamics and how, the metals expand and contract. So it's a really cool little thing. But anyways, kind of going off on a tangent as usual. So hot gas defrost is used. It's just not as common anymore because it's cheaper to install an electric defrost system. Yes, the operating cost might be a little bit more. I don't know. That's negligible to say on electric versus hot gas defrost. But it's just in the most part cheaper. So most people just deal with electric defrost on their refrigeration systems. Now, hot gas defrost is still a very common thing when it comes to ice machines. That's a very, very common thing. And, they do have to, depending on the type of machine and where the compressor is located, it can be a little bit difficult. For a while, Scotsman had a brand of ice machine where they had the compressor on the roof and it was hot gas defrost. So it had a third line going all the way down to the evaporator section, which was just silly. But anyways, yeah, we're going off again. Manitowoc Ice Machines does a cool vapor defrost, but they don't, they take the refrigerant out of the receiver. It's a whole thing, but all right. So again, I'm going off and going crazy. Which vacuum pump do I use in 410 systems, single stage or two stage? Yeah, I actually sent you an email back, but I use a two-stage Fieldpiece VP85 is the vacuum pump that I use for everything. So, and one thing I want you to understand for everybody out there, doesn't matter how big of a vacuum pump you can buy. You can go buy a 30 CFM vacuum pump. It ain't going to do crap if you don't use the right size hoses. Okay. Again, I'm pulling this out of my ass right now, but I want to say that the flow rate through a 1/4 inch hose and a Schrader port is like less than 2 CFMs, I think. So if you use a 1/4 inch hose and you don't remove the Schrader port, it doesn't matter what size pump you put on there. You're only getting that CFM that can flow through that Schrader port and through that 1/4 inch hose. You take the Schrader out, you get a little more flow. You put a bigger hose, you get more flow. You put true blue hoses on there, you'll get full flow. So it's all about the hoses when it comes to the vacuum pump. Okay. So don't go investing $1 million into a vacuum pump if you're going to use crappy hoses. It ain't going to do nothing for you. Okay. All right, let's see what else. How much PSI of air can an exhaust fan pull out of a building per minute? Ken Moore, well, we don't really talk about PSI as far as airflow goes, okay? We talk about it in CFMs. Cubic feet per minute. I had to think for a minute what that measurement was, and it's an airflow calculation based off of the velocity of the air and the cavity that the air is flowing through, and we can calculate the cubic feet per minute. The sky is the limit. How big of an exhaust fan do you want to put on there? Okay. You know, I mean, we could throw out numbers, thousands and thousands of CFMs if you wanted to. I mean, it just depends. So each fan is different depending on the system. Okay. And it all depends on the load calculation on the building and what it's rated for. And that's how you find out how big, you know, the flow needs to be to pull the unwanted air out of the building, basically. Am I planning on becoming a certified air balancer anytime soon? I would love to become certified in air balance. Sure. I mean, it's just one of those things that hasn't really been a priority, but I'd love to. I don't know that I'm going to implement air balancing into my business. And I've said this before because I'm limited by my employees, and not talking crap on my employees. I have good employees, but, you know, just because I know refrigeration and I know electrical a little bit, and I know, you know, air conditioning and then I learn air balancing, I can't expect my employees to know all that stuff either. Okay. So if I was to bring air balancing into my business, I'd probably have to hire someone that specializes in air balancing. And then I would have to keep that person busy all the time. If I was to just get certified for myself, it would just be kind of for fun. And so I can help out certain customers. And I certainly would be interested in doing that. Also, air balancing tools are ridiculously expensive. And if I'm not going to profit from those tools, it's kind of hard for me to justify the expense. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars in flow hoods and grid tools to be able to measure proper airflow. So it's a hard thing for me to just jump out there and just do as a hobby. You know, just haven't been able to justify it, basically. But I would always love to become a certified air balancer for sure. So if anybody knows people that do that stuff, reach out to me. Maybe we can set something up. I'm always willing to do that and learn it. All right, let's see what else. Let me see what I'm missing here. Advice on working on old equipment that multiple techs have had their hands in. Great question, Storm. So that is something that we run into quite often where, you know, you come to a place that has just been beat down and all kinds of techs have been in there and you can tell that it just ain't right. First off, what I would do is go to the customer without talking crap. Okay, you can be honest, but without talking crap. You don't want to just talk on the guy that was there before you, but just tell the restaurant, look, this equipment is in horrible shape. What are you expecting from me? Get their expectations. If they want it to be working properly and 100%, then guess what? They're going to get a bill for it, and you're going to start quoting, and you're going to start from scratch. Okay, so communication is key. Letting them know, like, hey, this equipment is in really bad shape. Document pictures. And I mean, start just finding everything that's wrong, you know, because everything is going to build a picture and it's going to show the customer, hey, this really is a mess. Look at all this stuff he's showing me. He's showing me that, you know, this is the wrong motor and it doesn't even have the right motor bracket. And, you know, this is the wrong size filter dryer. It's too small and there's a pressure drop across it. And this expansion valve is oversized for this coil. I mean, all of that stuff, document it, and then let the customer make the decisions. And then it's on them, you know, to say, no. I just want to just get it operating. Okay, no problem. But you document it. You let them know, hey, this is what we have to deal with. I got it operating, but it's not right, you know, and I can't guarantee anything. You know, don't threaten the customer, but let them know, you know what? I can't warranty this because I don't know what this other company did. When it comes to things like that, like I recently took over a couple restaurants for a chain that I was servicing, and I came across all kinds of problems where, you know, we'd go out there and I have one air conditioner on the roof that's labeled one of these drop-ins for, or one of these new refrigerants for R22. It's labeled with that. And then I have another air conditioner that's labeled with a different R22 replacement. Okay. And then I put my gauges on a unit that says it's R22 and the pressures and the temperatures don't make sense. I just went to the customer and said, look, there's too much going on here. I don't know what this technician was doing. The only way that I can guarantee that we're even going to get you in the ballpark of what's going on is I'm going to start with this air conditioner. We're going to recover all the refrigerant. We're going to dispose of it. And we're going to put new R22 back in this unit. And then I'll tell you what's wrong after I do that. And the customer said, okay, do it. And so I just started with one unit at a time, all new refrigerant, remove the old stuff, put the new stuff in, you know, but I was blatantly honest with them. And I said, look, this is what it is. I still, you know, but also I have one of the customers, again, big picture diagnosis, right? I went to go change a compressor and I noticed that the wrong compressor was in the unit. It was a ton too small. So there's supposed to be a 5-ton. It was a 4-ton in the unit. And I just told him, I'm changing the compressor next to this. And there's a 4-ton unit here and it's supposed to be, or a 4-ton compressor and it's supposed to be a 5-ton. And they said, you know what? It's working. Just leave it alone. I said, okay, cool. But I wrote on it in a paint marker for my technicians and for the next guy, this is the wrong compressor. Do not use this model number. I communicate everything with the customer. That's how I approach a situation that has everybody's hands on it. And then just break it down. Go back to the fundamentals. Start from scratch. There's nothing wrong on an air conditioning unit that I've walked up to where it's been a mess. I just tell the customer, I'm going to start over. And I rip every wire out of that unit and I'll rewire it. Rewire it the way that it's supposed to work, one wire at a time. This wire goes here, this wire goes here, this wire goes here. You'll solve a lot of problems like that, especially when you've had technicians in there just flipping things around and doing all kinds of weird crap. Just start from scratch. Grab a bunch of contactors because you're probably going to have some contactor issues and start from scratch. I've done it many times, okay? But again, understanding sequences of operation and communication is key. Letting the customer know the whole way. Ask them to come on the roof, take pictures, send it to corporate, whatever it is. All right, let's see what else. What am I missing? Are there free air balancing courses online? I'm sure there's something, but you're not going to get a lot from a free course online. There's companies out here in Southern California, NCI, National Comfort Institute, I think. They do like some sort of air balance training. You know, it's something I'm interested in. The thing about, you know, that particular course, I don't want to talk crap on anybody, but it's kind of a sales course. They want you to use their software and different things like that. So I'm more interested in the sciences of it. So one of these days I might go to an NCI course because you can get them subsidized, meaning that the utility rate payers here in Southern California, they in our energy bill, basically, we pay a portion of that goes to subsidized education for training new technicians, basically. So, you know, I can get a free subsidized education through NCI. Pretty much any of the classes they offer out here I can get for free, but you've got to go during certain times and different things like that. So, all right. Do I work with engineers on new installs? It's not very often, Anthony. Joe, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it, bud. It's not very often that I ever do new installs, Anthony. I've done them very, very rarely, but not a lot. So, and no, I've never really worked with an engineer on a new install. Where you live, utility company has a program where they install a device on the air conditioners that will cut power to the compressor for a few minutes every day, 30 minutes in peak electric demand. Matt. Yeah, Matt, I actually have that installed on my house, but I don't let people put a device on my air conditioner. If you get a new smart thermostat, I have a Honeywell 8000 series, I think, or something like that, Prestige, whatever. And I can pull up my thermostat on my phone, but I sign up for their utility plan. So, you know, when there's an energy demand, they might cut the power to my air conditioning unit, or they usually don't cut the power anymore. They just set the temperature to like 80 degrees or something like that, 78 degrees during the peak times in the summer. But the cool thing about the new programs with the thermostat is I have an app, or at my thermostat, I can simply opt out. I can walk up to the thermostat and say, I'm hot, and cancel. And it just cancels and you don't get credit for that day. So I like that better than a device that's installed on my air conditioner that people don't install right or something. Screw that. All right. Advice for guys looking to start their own HVAC channel. Be honest. Don't expect popularity. Don't look for popularity. I never did. I still don't. I don't even consider myself to be popular. I am sharing the little bit of knowledge that I have, and I'm being genuine about it, guys. Remember something, my videos are based from my employees. My videos are solely for my employees, and I make them public to share with other people. That might give context into the way that I might talk about something or give advice to do things a certain way, is because I'm talking to my employees. That's why I started doing these videos. So I had no expectations. Sure, it's cool to see my channel grow and my subscribers grow. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it is cool. But to this day, I do not make these videos to make money. That's not the point. I do make some money from it, but it's not the point. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not so concerned about what's going to be the best popular video and is this going to be good or no, I'm not concerned about that. I make videos about what I think is interesting and what I think someone could use help with. Okay. And I point out things that I think are important. And so if anybody out there wants to start their own channel, start their own anything, just be genuine and don't try so hard. Just do what it is. I mean, just put a video out there, guys. You know, don't go blasting them onto Facebook pages without being approved to do that, because Facebook groups, sometimes they don't want to see that. Yes, I do share mine in Facebook groups, but I have approval from people, right? And, you know, they get comments and they get likes and it starts conversations. You know, if the moment that I get a negative comment in a Facebook group where someone says, stop posting these videos, I just remove myself from the group. Okay. I'm not there to spam people and blast people, but you're never going to get to that instant success or whatever you want to call it. Just be honest and be genuine and make a video to help someone and people will notice you. Look into, if you want to get noticed by people, look into optimization programs. I use a program called TubeBuddy, and it basically helps you to understand how to target certain keywords. And again, so that way I can target the keyword HVACR videos, ice machine videos, refrigeration videos, because again, I'm trying to share the little bit of knowledge that I have with other people. Okay. So don't expect instant success, whatever you think that is. Don't expect to be popular. Don't do it for that reason. If you're going to make a video, make it to help the next guy. And people will follow and will find you if you make good content eventually. Okay, that's the best advice I can give. All right, let's see what else. All right, let me go to my list here and see what else I got on my list. Covered that, covered that one. Ah, good one right here. Okay, what happens if I give customers too many options when it comes to a repair? Okay, so how many is too many options and how many is not enough options? So do I go to the customer and say, you need to change your compressor when it's not bad? That's not very fair. Why am I changing the compressor? Why do I want to tell the customer they need to change the compressor? Is it because we want to change the refrigerant over to a new one and the oil change is going to be a joke, so it's just easier to change? Then tell them that, okay? But do I go to a customer and say, you know, well, your exhaust fan's not working. It has a bad motor, but I suggest we change the motor. I suggest we change the pulley. I suggest we change the belt. I suggest we change the electrical conduit. I suggest we change this. I suggest we change that. You know, that's a bit much, okay? If I'm going to sell them a motor, I'm selling them a pulley with the motor and it's part of the price. And I'm not necessarily going to make a big deal out of the fact that I'm putting a $6 pulley on that motor, okay? Because you can justifiably sell a pulley without ripping them off. If it's worn out, go for it. Now, if it's not worn out, there's no reason to, okay? So when is it too many options? You don't want to confuse a customer, okay? Good, better, or best, right? They do that on the residential side. Here's the 3 options. Okay, that's a fair thing. Give them a good, better, or best. This is a high efficiency communicating system. This is a, you know, decent system without all the fancy doodads, and this is a builder grade unit. That's a fair thing, okay? But on the commercial side, customers aren't looking for that. Customers are looking for you to be honest with them and tell them what is wrong, give them a list and let them know. Now, I will in certain situations. So the answer to the question is that it's hard. You have to feel it out yourself. You have to know your customer, okay? But so let's say I have a reach-in cooler. It's a Hvacr cook's drawer system. I work on them all the time. It's got 4 evaporators. 3 of them are leaking. The other one is corroded really bad. Expansion valves are all rusted out. What do? Do I tell the customer that you need 4 evaporators? Or do I tell them that you need 3 and I recommend changing the 4th? That's what I'm going to do. Now, yeah, sure. I could tell the customer they need 4. They wouldn't question me at all, and I could sell it, and nobody would know any different. But if I tell them they need 3 and I recommend changing the 4th and they don't change a 4th, guess what? We documented it. And it gives me more cred with them because I told you to change this and you didn't. And here we are a month later and it's leaking now. Makes you look better. So don't, you know, try to rip them off in any way like that. But if you give them the option to do that and they don't choose to do it, then you document it. It makes you look better when it doesn't work, right? Or when something happens. So, you know, it's kind of hard. You have to know your customer, and that's how you can do it. You know, you can get to know them, and then you know what to bring it. Last thing, let me see, discuss giving customers. Yeah. Okay. So another thing I want to bring up right now. This is very fitting because you're watching a guy who you really don't know what my qualifications are. Okay. I make a video on YouTube. I have a bunch of subscribers, and sure, we got a lot of people watching this live stream. But what do I really know? And how do you know what I really know? So can you really take the advice that I give you and take it for word? You need to be cautious about trusting people. You need to do your due diligence and do your own research, okay? So I have a topic written right here. And here's I'm going to paraphrase what I have saying. It says, discuss drinking the Kool-Aid of influential people and how we may not know their true intentions. It's easy to think their shit doesn't stink. But the question is, does their shit stink? That's what I have written on my little topic of here to talk about. There's a lot of influential people in the social network of HVAC and YouTube, tool manufacturers and different things like that. All right. We were recently having a discussion with a close friend of mine about drinking people's Kool-Aid and, you know, trusting everything that they say is golden. All right. If you have a tool manufacturer and you think everything that they make is amazing, and you don't second guess anything, you know, you need to kind of stop and think. You need to do the research yourself. Just because this influential person tells you that their shit don't stink doesn't mean it does, right? Or doesn't, right? You get what I'm saying? All right. You know, do your due diligence. Don't just trust someone that says something on the internet. You guys need to do the research. If you want to kind of vet people, is go through the comments. Okay. If you want to know if I kind of have a general idea what I'm doing, go through my comments. All right. Look and see. Is there a lot of negative comments? All right. Now, granted, some people can delete comments. I don't, but you know, but you can usually tell when someone doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay. So be cautious. And I'm not saying that there's one particular person I'm talking about in general, because I'm mentioning YouTubers, I'm mentioning tool manufacturers, I'm mentioning very popular people. And I've got one person in mind, and gentleman is a very smart gentleman, but just because he says to do something doesn't mean I'm going to jump. Okay. So you need to be cautious about trusting what everybody says. Do your due diligence. Okay. Let's see what I'm missing in the chat. Let me see. I meant light commercial refrigerator company. I don't know what you meant by that, Ben. If I didn't answer your question right, then definitely send me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Have I ever seen a pin stick underneath the power head of an expansion valve? Yeah, if a pin gets gummed up, I've seen that. You know, usually it's like some sort of crap stuck on the pin. I've pulled the pin out of the pin that presses up on the power head of an expansion valve, or I guess the power head pushes down on theoretically. But I've pulled a pin out before and there was like gummed up crap stuck on the pin. So that's usually some sort of an additive or something like that in the system that causes it to be sticky for sure. I have seen that. Let me see. God, how many times have I said I need to stop that. That is such a crutch word. Juan Williams asked me what leak detector I recommend. So currently I use the DTEC Select electronic leak detector. That is the leak detector I have used for probably 10 plus years. It works really well. I have changed the leak detector. I mean, it has lasted me a few years, but it has repairable parts and it's a very trustworthy leak detector. So the DTEC Select is the one that I use. Now, I can't talk crap about the other ones because I haven't used them. So let's see what else I missed. Thrill to real, send me an email and I can answer your question a little bit more. That's a little in depth. So hvacrvideos@gmail.com. How do I balance positive and negative pressure in a building? Is there a setting on an exhaust fan? How much PSI or CFM does an exhaust fan suck per minute? Okay, Ken Moore, it really depends. I mean, I can't tell you the exact number at how many CFMs an exhaust fan moves. I would use a pressure device, a manometer, to measure the building pressure in inches of water column, and that will tell me whether or not it's in a positive or a negative pressure, depending on how the building was designed. You know, some hospital situations or you know, it depends on the design. I mean, a typical restaurant, the overall building pressurization, you typically want it to be slightly positive, but then the kitchen pressurization, you want it to be slightly negative for the most part. So that way you're not blowing out the smells from the kitchen for the most part, but then you don't want it to be too negative in the kitchen because you don't want to pull cool air across the food service counter where it cools the food as, you know, it's up on the counter getting ready to be served. So there's quite a bit of complexity in an air balance. Feel free to send me an email and we can talk a little bit more about that if you have some more general questions. Okay, bud? Let's see. Yeah, Curtis is staring at you guys all. Curtis is looking at you with big eyes. He's still looking at me too because he had that amazing super chat. So let me see. Recently switched. Let's see. What do I think about the new YouTube rules starting in 2020? Nathan, are you talking about the kid rules, like with all the children and stuff like that? Because that's the only new to YouTube rules that I know about. It's just something we got to get used to if that's what you're talking about. I will say that I had a video. So I did a Q&A live stream a couple weeks ago where I just randomly let people come onto my channel, and it doesn't matter. I had no rules and I don't mind. But I did a live thing where I could click on a button and people could come on the screen and ask me questions. I gave them the opportunity. And one of the gentlemen was a younger kid, probably 13 years old or something like that. And it kind of took me back at first because I looked at my screen and there was like a 13-year-old or a young kid on there. And again, I was totally open to that. And if I ever did that again, I would totally be open to a kid of that age coming on here and asking me genuine questions. I'm fine with that. But it was really interesting because YouTube demonetized my live stream because I had a child on it. So that was an interesting one. I don't make any money on the live streams anyways, so it's all good. I don't mind that. And even if I'm not mad, saying that I would do it again. But, so yeah, if that's what you're talking about, it's a whole new thing with the new rules. Basically, they're putting people on the line for doing bad stuff with kids. So I guess so be it. I mean, if I can protect kids, go for it. All right, let's see what else. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So, gentlemen, I am going to wrap this up. I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. We have a new year. It's a new chance for some people. It's a new start. For those of you that need it, take advantage of it. Okay? Remember, wipe your slate clean, start over fresh, and strive to do better. That's the way that I want to leave you guys with the new year. Okay? That's my goals. My goals is to do better for my children and my wife and be a better person. And I wish you guys the best too. Happy New Year. And we're going to go ahead and close this out. If I missed any of your guys' questions, feel free to send me an email. I'm always open to answering questions. I really, really appreciate your guys' support. You guys have been awesome. It's been a great year, I think. And I feel successful in sharing the little bit of knowledge that I have with you guys and with the people that have been watching my videos. So I'm going to continue to do it until you guys tell me to stop. Okay. So I am going to segue out of this. And if I can figure out how to run my own system, I'm going to transition this over and cue up the outro music. Okay. Thank you very much, guys, and Happy New Year.